Anti-racist advocates are losing traction, being forced to lay off staff. Who could have known that using racism to beat racism wouldn't end up the magical solution they thought it was? Welcome to America Uncovered, I'm Chris Chappell. Anti-racism appears to be going out of vogue, and the loss in popularity is striking at the very heart of the movement. That's right, Ibram X. Kendi's famous Anti-Racism Center is planning layoffs. Massive layoffs. Boston University's Center for Anti-Racist Research is planning on sending 15 to 20 out of 45 staff members packing later this year. In a statement, Boston University spokesman Colin Riley confirmed the layoffs. He said the center is evolving to a fellowship model and would offer details on this new direction soon. This new direction involves using money that would go to paying staff members for visiting scholars who are already employed elsewhere, which sounds like a fantastic way to redirect wealth from the have-nots to the haves. While the Center for Anti-Racist Research simply frames the layoffs as a rearrangement, it's not that simple. One Boston University professor tweeted that it wasn't surprising that the Center for Anti-Racist Research had layoffs, given the chaotic management that she experienced as a grant recipient and the terrible experiences close friends had working there. But there are other reasons the center is taking a hit beyond bad management and a crappy work environment, and it has to do with the very foundation of anti-racism. For those of you who don't have your noses glued to the culture wars, first of all, congratulations! You probably have a lot more peace of mind. Let me ruin it for you by filling you in on a bit of what anti-racism means. Anti-racism is a term famously coined by Boston University professor Ibram X. Kendi, the author of How to Be an Anti-Racist, and founder of Boston University's Center for Anti-Racist Research. Kendi believes that there's systemic racism and unconscious bias everywhere against Black Americans. Whenever he sees racial disparities, he sees racism as the root cause of different outcomes. Could there be other factors? No, just racism. According to Kendi, to fight racism, it's not enough to just be not racist. There's no such thing as being colorblind or race neutral. In fact, promoting colorblindness and race neutrality is the new separate but equal, a perpetuation of white supremacy. In Kendi's world, you're either racist or anti-racist. There's no middle ground. You're either actively identifying and opposing racism or you're racist. According to the Center for Anti-Racist Research, the goal of anti-racism is to actively change policies, behaviors, and beliefs that perpetuate racist ideas and actions. And since any racial disparity in outcome is racism, this involves dismantling and rebuilding any aspect of society where there is a disparity to ensure equality of outcome. It also involves making white people acknowledge their privilege and unconscious bias and being racist. Yes, you heard that right. Anti-racism requires racism. According to Kendi, the only remedy to racist discrimination is anti-racist discrimination. The only remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination. I wonder how much race is factoring into who's getting the boot at that center. Anti-racism has become a cornerstone of the progressive agenda. In the wake of George Floyd's death, it was all the rage. Support came pouring in for anti-racist organizations like Black Lives Matter, including $50 billion worth of corporate money, which got used for things like a $6 million mansion, money well spent. But Kendi's Center for Anti-Racist Research wasn't left behind. In 2020, Twitter founder Jack Dorsey donated $10 million to it. A year later, the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation granted Kendi a MacArthur Genius Grant of $625,000 spread over 5 years. These days, the anti-racist industry is flagging. And it's not alone. A lot of progressive and left-leaning organizations are seeing layoffs. I'll tell you more after the break. Welcome back. Ibram X. Kendi's Center for Anti-Racist Research is laying off nearly half of its staff, but it's not the only progressive organization that's in trouble. George Soros' Open Society Foundation is planning on laying off 40% of its staff. The Chan Zuckerberg Initiative is laying off dozens. And layoffs are also impacting other organizations such as Planned Parenthood, LGBT support organization The Trevor Project, and the environmentalist advocacy group the Sierra Club. Meanwhile, the Democratic Party is facing a massive grassroots fundraising hit this year. Now let's be real for a moment. It's not just the left taking hits. The economy is crumbling. Layoffs are everywhere. So much so that Forbes has a 2023 layoff tracker. But the beautiful thing about progressive ideology is that it's built on the assumption that if you don't agree with it, you're a bigot. So if anti-racist organizations are doing layoffs, there can only be one cause: racism. Earlier this year, Kendi complained on CNN about how a conservative backlash has crushed the U.S.'s racial reckoning. He believes all this stems from a desire to perpetuate racism, and he's not alone. Other anti-racist advocates like Mary Frances Winter, founder of the Winters Group, says companies that sign up for anti-racist initiatives are stepping back because of white fragility.
The system is just so entrenched, and it's so difficult to even move just a little bit. And here's what I'm hearing a lot. We hear this a lot. Our leaders are too uncomfortable with this. We've actually lost contracts when people have said we want to do anti-racism work, and we go in and they say, oh, this is what you mean by anti-racism work? Oh, we didn't, that's not what we signed up for. So you see that that fragility centering white comfort is so alive and well.
Yes, it's because they're centering white comfort, not because they realize how racist anti-racism actually is. To address opposition to anti-racism training, those like Robin DiAngelo, the author of the book White Fragility, want to change company culture so that employers remove those who reject the basic premises of anti-racism.
But what I want to do is create a culture that actually spits out those who are resistant, as opposed to what it does now, which is spit out those who want to break with white solidarity and contribute, if that makes sense, right?
Of course, the obvious answer to racial discrimination is to discriminate against employees who don't agree with you. But that's not the only discrimination DiAngelo wants. She also wants, go figure, racial discrimination.
And then I'm a big believer in affinity space, in affinity work. And I think people of color need to get away from white people and have some community with each other.
Black people need to get away from white people? Now, where have I seen that before? But support for this kind of thing just isn't what it used to be in 2020. One good indicator of that is support for BLM. According to a recent Pew Research poll, support for the BLM movement has declined since 2020. The money has declined too. BLM's revenue dropped 88% in 2022 after multiple self-enrichment scandals and infighting over money. Of course, it didn't help BLM's image that only a fraction of donations it received helped charitable foundations. Although there's still a lot of support for BLM, especially from young minorities and Democrats, a majority of Americans say the movement hasn't been effective at improving race relations in the U.S. The majority also believes that the focus on race since 2020 hasn't led to major changes for Black Americans. But does America need anti-racism regardless? Of course, anti-racists would argue yes, since they see disparities everywhere and conclude that it must all come from racism. Keep in mind that they also have a financial stake in seeing to it that they need to counter racism forever. Critics, meanwhile, argue that anti-racism unnecessarily divides people by focusing entirely on race, even though there are more factors to disparities such as family upbringing and economic background. They also argue that the U.S. nowadays isn't intrinsically racist the way anti-racism makes it out to be. They point to all of the many successful Black Americans, including Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, former U.S. President Barack Obama, and astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson, among many others. There's also a working paper for the Harvard Business School that found that restaurants tagged as Black-owned experience sustained improvements in business outcomes with more customer engagement and revenue. If America really was as racist as anti-racists made it out to be, then why would Black-owned businesses perform better instead of worse? Critics also question how anti-racists contribute to the very harm they say they're combating by focusing so much on how minorities are being pulled down by white people. And if treating people differently on the basis of their skin rather than the character is the solution, that sounds kind of sus, because it sounds a lot like, you know. But while anti-racists are struggling to find donors to finance their operations, America Uncovered has diverse allies like you who can speak truth to power by supporting us over on patreon.com/America Uncovered. Don't worry, we don't discriminate. Just click that orange button. And if you want to go into more depth about why DEI is dying, click on this video. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching America Uncovered.